Hello, what we're going to be covering in this video is how you can go ahead and create a class using Python. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to write a class named person with data attributes for a person's name, address, and telephone number. And then we're going to write the appropriate property decorators and setters for the data attributes of the person class. After that, we're going to write a program that tests our person class. In that program, we're going to prompt the user to enter data for each of the person's data attributes. We're going to create an object of the person class, and then we are going to store the data in the object. And after that, we're going to use the object's property decorators to retrieve the data and display it on the screen. So the first thing we need to do is we need to talk about what a property decorator is. So let me just go ahead and open up the classes in Python presentation. And what I've currently written is a class using getter and setter methods. This is the methodology that most object-oriented programming languages use. One of the languages that uses this methodology is Java. So what I've done is I've written a Python example of this. So we have our init function, we have our toFahrenheit function, and then we have our getter method, and usually when you define those methods, you use get and then the attribute name that you're going to be returning. Or when you define your setter method, you use set and then specify the attribute that you're going to be updating. So in most languages, to access or go ahead and mutate a data attribute within the class, you create an accessor or getter method and a mutator or setter method. So that's what I've gone ahead and done. An accessor or getter method returns the value of the class's attributes without changing it, whereas the mutator or setter method stores or changes the value of a data attribute. So what we're going to do next is we are going to go ahead and look at property decorators. So let me just move to the next slide here. So a property decorator is a Pythonic way to use getters and setters in programming. What Python has done is it provides a built-in property decorator, which makes usage of getter and setters much easier in object-oriented programming. So what I've done is I've provided a link to a tutorial on property decorators. So what you'll want to go through the examples that are provided in that link. So the next thing what I've done is I've created that same Celsius class, but instead of using getters and setters, I'm using the property decorators. So again, we have our init and our toFahrenheit methods. And then after that, we have ampersand property. And basically that is defining our property decorator. And what we have here is instead of prepending it with a get, we just specify the data attribute's name, which is temperature. And then what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be returning our value that's stored in our temperature data attribute. And then for our setter, we specify ampersand temperature.setter. And then within the definition of our setter, again, we just specify the data attribute name. And then what we're doing is we're actually setting the value for our temperature for that specific object. So the one thing that I wanted to mention is that what you see is in all the methods within a class in Python, you need to provide the self parameter. It is required in every method in the class. And what the self parameter refers to is it references the specific object that the method is working on. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and look at the code for our person class and our person tester class. So what I'm going to do is I've opened up my person class and I've written all that code. So we're just going to go ahead and walk through that code. So we've added a method or a comment that we're defining the class. Then the first thing we need to do is we need to use the keyword class. And then we need to specify the name of the class and then a colon. And basically everything underneath that is now indented is part of the person class. So all of the methods, all the property decorators, all the setters need to be indented within our person class. The first thing you do when you create a class is that you need to go ahead and define an init method. And what that init method does is it constructs or initializes an object based on the information that is included in the arguments that are passed in to the various parameters. So what we're doing in this init is we're passing in a name, address, and phone number. And then on line 678 is we're going ahead and we're setting the name, address, and phone number for that specific object uh, of the person class. So that's what we're doing in the init method. The one thing you want to notice is that when you create your init methods, let me just go ahead and delete. You need to go ahead and add 2 underscores. 1 underscore will not work. You need 2 underscores before and after the init keyword. So after we've gone ahead and we've defined our init method, then what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and define a property decorator for each one of our attributes. So the first one is for our name. And all that we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and return the value stored in our name data attribute. And I've added some extra code here just for display purposes. So when you create your properties, property decorators and setters, you do not have to add these print statements. I just added those for illustrative purposes to show you how we move through the code when we actually create those objects. So what we have here is we have our property decorator for our name, our address, and our phone number. And again, the names of the property decorators and setters must exactly match what we are calling the data attributes. So it's name, address, and phone number. So we have our 3 property decorators, and then on lines 26 through 40, what we've done is we've gone ahead and we've created our setters. So what that'll do for, it'll go ahead and based on the name that gets passed in when the setter is called, it'll go ahead and set the name for that object of our person class. So we have a name setter, we have an address setter, and then we have our phone number setter. So those are the setters and property decorators that we need for our person class, along with our init function that'll go ahead and set our name, address, and phone number attributes, data attributes. So if we go ahead and actually run this program, so I will just go ahead and click on Run Module. Go ahead and click on OK. And basically, what we've done is we've just compiled the class. We are currently not creating any objects. We will be creating a person object in our tester program. So what this class is it's the blueprint that will be used to create any person objects in the future. So now that we have this blueprint of our person class, we can go ahead and create any number of person objects. And that's what we're going to do in our tester program. So let me go in and actually open up my person tester program. and expand that. So the first thing you need to do is you need to import the person.py file. So what I need to do is I need to go ahead and specify the file name of where my class is actually stored in. And as you can see, if we go back into our directory, it is stored in a file called person.py with a lowercase p. So if we go back into our tester program, that's what I've specified right here. So this must match the .py file where your class is actually stored in. You do not use the class name, so we do not specify an uppercase P. It has to be the name of the file. And then what I've done is I've just specified an alias. So instead of having to actually write out person when we need to reference that class, all I have to do is I need to just specify P. So the first thing we need to do, like I mentioned in the introduction, is we need to prompt the user for the name, address, and phone number. So that's what we're doing here. We're prompting the user for the name, address, and phone number, and we're storing it in the name, address, and phone number variables. Then on line 9, what we're doing is we're creating an object of the person class called person1. And the code on the right is basically we need to reference the file that our person class is in, which is our P up above. So we need to specify P and use dot notation. And then we're creating an object of a type called person. So we need to specify the object name. And then we need to specify each one of the data attributes that have been specified in our init method that we created in our person class. And those were name, address, and phone number. So what this line of code will do is it'll go ahead and call our person class, and it'll create object of the person class called person1, and it'll save the name that was specified, the address that was specified, and the phone number that was specified for that class within that instance of person. And then what we want to do next is we want to go ahead and access that information that has been stored in our person1 object. So in order to do that, what we do is we specify the name of the object, which is person1, and then we use dot notation, and then we just specify the data attribute. So what this will do is that'll use our property decorators that we created in our person class, and it'll retrieve the name, address, and phone number for that person that we've created. So let me just go ahead and run the class. So I will go ahead and run the module. So I will specify the name is John Doe. The address is 111 Main Street, and the phone number is 225-5808. And if I go ahead and hit return, then as you can see, when the init function gets called, then what gets called is each one of the setters that we've created in our person class. As you can remember, I added those print statement after as the first line in each one of those setters. So those get called and they set the values of our 3 attributes. And then what happens after that is for each line of code in my tester class, the getter gets called and it returns John Doe, it returns 111 Main Street, and it returns the phone number. Okay, so that kind of walks you through how you can go ahead and create a class, add the property decorators and the setters using the Pythonic way to do it, and how to create a tester class that'll create the object and call the various property decorators and setters. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. So we will talk to you later.